Okay, so I'll start at least with intros, see if anyone else signs on. So I am Kelly Pollock. I'm the Director of Content for Demcast. I am also a podcaster. And in both of those roles, I make a lot of graphics, and I do it almost exclusively through Canva. So I just thought I'd walk you through a little bit of what Canva can do, answer some basic questions about how that program works. And then after my kids are done being put to bed, my husband will join me and he'll talk about some basics of graphic design, some things to keep in mind, colors, things like that, that you should use. And he, among other things in his job, makes a lot of posters and social media graphics and things. So he has a really good handle on what sorts of graphic styles work well. So I believe you can all do the chat. There's a little chat box somewhere, and that will send messages to me and to my husband when he gets here. So if you have questions, I'm going too fast, something didn't make sense, just let me know through the chat. And also, this is a fairly small group and won't necessarily take a whole hour. So if you have specific things you would definitely like to learn how to do, or a suggestion for a project you'd like me to show you how to do, just let me know. So I am going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you are now seeing my screen, and this is just, I use Chrome, but you could use any browser, and this is canva.com. So Canva is just on a website. There's also a phone app that doesn't have quite as many features, but the website has a lot of features, very feature rich, and it is free, which is one of the many reasons that I like using it a lot. There is a paid version of Canva. You'll see there's a Canva Pro that you can pay for and use, and it will add additional features. But I use Canva literally every single day, and I have not upgraded to Pro. So to my mind, you can do pretty much everything you need to do without going to the Pro version. So it's worth at least trying the free version and see if you can get what you need out of it. So I mentioned I like it because it's free. The other reason that I like Canva a lot is because you don't have to know the dimensions of what you need. So if you use graphics on social media, you may know that every different program has different preferred dimensions. Instagram, you use square, Facebook is one size ratio, Twitter's another size ratio. The nice thing about Canva is it's got all of that programmed in. So if I want to do, and you'll see I've searched for some of these already, but if I want to post an image on Twitter, I just start typing Twitter and either Twitter header, so that's the top of like for your account, your profile page, a Twitter post. And they've got various other things here too, but the one I use the most is Twitter post. So it's going to make it 1024 pixels by 512 pixels automatically when I say I want to make a Twitter post. So Canva has a whole bunch of built-in things that you can use. So depending on what you're trying to do, let's say you just wanted to make a very basic post, you could just sort of scroll through the various options. You wanted to do something about flowers, so you would say, oh, this thing already exists. You just click on it, and then you can change anything in here. So I could just say, I'm gonna advertise Kelly's Flower Show. And I'm gonna say it's January 15th, because that's the time of year you do flower shows, right? And then if I want to, so what I'm doing here is I'm just double clicking into where the text is, and that's giving me the cursor so I can type something else in there. Same thing with any of these others. This text up here, I've decided I just want to delete because I only needed 2 lines of text. So I just double click into it and then highlight the text and delete, and it's gone. So one thing about this particular default that I used here is that it has the different text already grouped together. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's important to keep in mind if you're going to use one of the templates that's here, that it's going to have certain things coded into it already. You can change those things, but you might want to keep that in mind. All right, so this was my very basic Twitter post. I picked one of the templates that was already there, changed some of the words on it. I can give it a new name. So name is up here at the top, the title of it. I'm just going to call it Kelly's Flower Show. And then you'll see here, I've got various options for what I can do with it. So the thing that you're going to do most, probably, the thing I do most, is download. If you just have the free version, you don't have a lot of options to choose from here. So you just say download, and it downloads to your desktop or wherever you have things set to download to from your browser. The other thing you can do, you'll see here, since I picked Twitter post as the format that I wanted, is that you can also publish straight to Twitter from here. I don't often do that, so I would recommend just sort of downloading it and then going to Twitter and uploading it from there. Okay, that was a very sort of quick, down and dirty version of what you could do if you just need to make a graphic really, really quickly. So I just, from the front page, just to recap, this is the main Canva page. I just picked Twitter header and, oh, sorry, I picked Twitter post. And then it gave me these templates that were already there. I picked one, and then I just double clicked to change text. Okay, so that's, if you don't have a very particular design in mind, you just want to pick something that's already there and it's just going to look nice, has all sorts of options there. You could make Twitter posts, Facebook posts all day using those. But if you have a set idea of what you might want to do, and as a reminder, there's the chat box at the top, or at the bottom of your screen, I guess. So if you have questions, feel free to type those into the chat. Those will go to me, and I can answer any specific questions you have. Or if I'm going too fast, you want me to repeat something, just let me know. All right, so that was just a quick version of if you just want to use graphics they already have. So another version of what you could do is to start with something blank. So let's just, for difference, use something else. We'll try Instagram this time. Instagram post is going to be square because that's what Instagram wants. So in this case, it says it's 1080 pixels.
Sorry,
Matthew has joined us now, but I'm hearing
my audio through him too.
1 second, guys. Hold on. Can you? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So Instagram post. And so this time, instead of picking one of these set templates that they have, I'm going to go with a blank template. Okay. So let's say I wanted to invite someone to a party. I want to make a graphic about a party. They're going to have these options on the side for templates that you can grab from here if you didn't grab one up front. There's also on the left side of the screen there's various photos that you can use for free. Some of these will have a little $sign, and that means that you need to have the fancier Canva Pro to use them, but some of them will say free. And so you could just click on one of those, it'll pop over to your screen, and you can drag it. The corners here you can drag to be different sizes, fill up the screen. One really nice feature of Canva is that, let's say I want to center this vertically. If I just drag it, it'll show this little pink horizontal bar there. These little crosshairs say that I've now exactly centered it. I don't have to try to figure that out on my own. It'll figure it out for me. So those are various things you can do with pictures that are already there. They also have on the left side here, under photos, there's something called backgrounds. So backgrounds are a little simpler than pictures in the background. They're not quite as busy, but they can be really nice. Sometimes they're gradients. So I just clicked one here and it just brought it over to my square. It gave me, this nice gradient of orange. Some of them are a little bit busier. You could do like wood paneling in the background. We'll talk in a little bit about why you don't want to be too busy on these, but some of them are very pretty. So I'm going to pick something relatively simple, just a nice purple gradient here. And then over on the left, same place I'm grabbing all this other stuff, I can click on text. And when I do that, it's going to give me some automatic options that I can choose from. So, you'll see it's got various things already filled in, templates that you can choose from on font. Most of them are pretty nice. I tend to have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, so I don't usually use the templates that it has. So often what I will do is just over here, it says add heading, add subheading, add body text. It doesn't matter which of those you choose. They're just going to be slightly different fonts and sizes, but you can change all of that. So I'm going to click on add a heading, brings it over, automatically centers it for you. And I'm going to type in Kelly's party. So I'm just replacing the text that's already there. So now I've got this very basic purple box. So it's Kelly's party with a pretty basic font. Canva, even the free version, has a ton of different fonts and essentially unlimited color choices. So I can highlight that text, Kelly's party. Let's say I wanted a specific font. The fonts are up above. And it's got a ton. Any of these with a crown means that you need the pro version, but you can just start typing something. You could type handwriting and it'll show you any fonts that look like someone's handwriting. You could type script. It'll show you things that are kind of cursive-y. Probably do something like bold. It'll show you thick, heavy fonts. So it all depends on what kind of mood you're going for, what you want to do. So I'm going to, for this one, go with something handwriting. So permanent marker is just a nice bold, looks like someone wrote it with permanent marker. Okay, so I changed that to permanent marker. Now I realize that although this is all in capital letters anyway, the K and the P there are bigger. And that's because I made them capital when I was typing. You can also make the whole thing into capitals. There's this AA that changes everything to uppercase. Now it's all uppercase. You can make the font bigger by using the size numbers there, just typing in or dragging down and picking a different number. You can make it underlined, not underlined. The alignment will give you center or left justification, full justification, right justification. So you can change all these sorts of things around. You can move this box around. Again, it'll help you find the center. So it really just depends on what you want to do with it. But you have a ton of different choices there, even in the free version, of things that you can do. It will default, if you make your own, to the name of the graphic being the words you have typed in. So it's just saving my graphic every time as Kelly's party. I could download the same way I did with that Twitter post. If I leave this, so you notice I've done nothing to save it, it's automatically saving it. If I went back to the home screen for Canva, it's going to show up under my designs. If I click on my designs, not there yet, but this one right here, the first one, if I clicked into it, is this Kelly's party graphic. It's just not showing up in the preview just yet. So it'll still be there. It'll save it for me. And as far as I know, there's essentially no limit to how many things you can save. I've done 2.5 years worth of podcast graphics and a whole bunch of Demcast graphics. in Canva, and they are all saved, and it's never told me I'm out of room. So I think the free version gives you an awful lot of storage. It also saves any pictures that you upload. So let me go to my account. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Too many screens up at once here. Okay. So all my designs, go back into this flower one. And let's say I wanted to take out this picture, this flower picture, and put something else in the background. So I would just click onto this picture, hit delete, picture's gone now. The words are still there, you just can't see them because they're in white. And now I can go over on the left to uploads. So uploads is all the pictures that I have added to Canva over time. And you can upload anything that's a JPEG or a PNG file. Definitely those two. I think those are the ones I use the most. You can upload them into there. So for various reasons, I've uploaded to add to graphics announcing things. This here is the one that I used for to advertise this session. So I uploaded this, it's here. I can put it here. I can do all the same stuff I do with any of the images that are native to Canva. So I can drag it, make it bigger, I can move it over. You'll notice that the words that we put here aren't showing up. And that's because right now the picture is in front of the words. So up above here is this thing that says position, and you can say send the picture backward. Sending it backward, and I've sent it backward far enough now that those words are here again. So one thing I like to do, you'll notice I upload a lot of pictures of people. That's because they're guests on the podcast and things like that. But sometimes you need pictures of a specific person. You need a picture of Trump because you're doing a meme about Trump, or you need a picture of Nancy Pelosi. There are lots and lots of free images of these public figures that are available online. They're not going to be in Canva already, so you need to find them. So if you go to Google and type Donald Trump. So in Google, if you do Google image search, so instead of searching everything in Google, you search images. Then, and I will send around some notes on this, so in case you forget these things that I'm saying. If you click on tools under the search bar, there's a thing called usage rights. And you could say, show me things that are labeled for reuse with modification. And what that means is you can use it for any purpose you want. They are either things that are public domain, and a lot of pictures of Donald Trump, for instance, are in the public domain, or they are things that an individual took and they still have the rights to, but as long as you credit them, they're okay with you using. So I'm looking for labeled for reuse with modification. You'll very often find things on Wikipedia that can be reused. In this case, there's something on Flickr. The White House has its own Flickr account, so and those are all in the public domain. So anything that the White House photographers take is in the public domain and you can use. The other thing, this may be very specific to me, but the other thing I need pictures of a lot are state houses in various states. So if I wanted to see the Illinois Capitol building, you can usually find free images to use of Capitol buildings for states. Again, Wikipedia, Flickr. So what I can do is I can click on this Wikipedia picture, find it, I can save it to my computer, and then I can go back into Canva. I'm going to delete out this other picture. I'm going to go to uploads again, upload an image, and then find where that one was, this top one here. And then click over to it, and now that's right here in my image, and I can make it bigger, smaller, different dimensions, adds words to it. So you can do that with really any image at all. So it's really useful to be able to do that for images that aren't available within Canva itself. That's part of the reason that I've never felt the need to upgrade to Canva Pro, because I can go find images elsewhere. All right, so remember, if you have any questions about anything I'm saying, there's the chat box, and you can send a chat in there, and it will send it to me, and I can see what sorts of questions you have or anything you want me to repeat. So I said that after my kids were in bed, that my husband, Matthew, would join me. Matthew is now on as well. So Matthew's going to talk some about some basics of graphic design, good graphic design, and then we can answer any questions you have, play around with different files. If you have a particular image you want us to try to make, we can do whatever of that. So let me unshare my screen. Stop screen share. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Matthew.
Hello, can you help me share my screen? Press this button. All right, so I went into Canva a little bit earlier today, and I tried my best to make a really wretched Instagram post with a lot of mistakes in it so that we could fix those mistakes. I found a free public use image of Trump at a rally, and I tried to imagine something that someone might want to say about Trump at a rally. So, first and foremost, you should have an image for the most part. Posts with images do a lot better than just posts with words. However, you should find a high quality image. So if you look, I don't know how well you can see this on your screens, but it's a very blurry image. This was the thumbnail from a Google image search. And so I right-clicked it and I did save as, and I saved that and I uploaded it to Canva. But it's really not very big at all. If I go into my properties, I can see that the image itself is only 275 by 183 pixels. That's way too small for any use. You should be looking at images that are at least, let's say, 800 pixels on a side, okay? So to remedy that, what I did was I actually clicked on the link and went to the article that image had been used in, and I found the actual, not thumbnail, but the actual version of the image, which you can see is 1500 by 1000. That's a nice big image file. So like Kelly was doing before, I'm going to delete that image, and I actually uploaded the good version. Now I can't tell which one it is because, okay. So there is a much larger version of the image. And I'm going to zoom it in. And I hope it comes across on the screen that this is a much, much clearer image because it's literally 10 times as big. That's one of the, by far the most common bad practices we see in homemade graphics that people use on the internet. So always, always, always at least 800 pixels. If you can get into the thousands, you should. And what if you have 10 different versions of the image to choose from, choose the largest, no matter what it is, okay? All right, so now I have some text here. The image, as you can see, is very busy. It's got a lot of color. There's sort of one focal point, this mass of humanity in the middle, and then there are these other slobs around the sides. It makes it very difficult to read, especially if we have different colors, and people often like to get creative and they use different colors in their text. I tend usually to think this is a bad idea. It could be, let's do an experiment here. Let's try making all of it white. It's certainly more legible at this point because it's all white. If I were going to use a different color in something, maybe it would be to emphasize one particular word. Oh, did that show up? Yes, okay. You should always, here's a principle of graphic design for you. Don't do it because it's creative. Do it because there's a reason for it, okay? Emphasizing a particular word in a sentence, that's a reason. Making everything a different color because, oh, it's red, white, and blue like a flag, that's creative. And creativity is fine, but don't do something just because you can. Do something because you should. All right. So Kelly talked about the font choices that are available here. What I've done in this image is the reverse of what someone should do with font choices. Fonts come in flavors called serif and sans serif, okay? So this font up here is a serif font. You can see that on the R's, on the P's, there are little doodads sticking out, and that's called a serif. And a serif is very useful for certain kinds of things. However, it's not very useful when your text is very big. When your text is big, you might want to consider a sans serif font. Sans serif fonts are more graphic. They're larger. They draw your attention, and legibility is not the most important feature of them. I don't particularly like this font. I think it's too funky for this purpose. So let's look for, okay, this is a very basic font. Certainly better. Again, I'm not going to go through 100 different fonts right now, just to show you the difference. But if I go back, you can see the difference between what I chose and what it used to be, I hope. So let's go back to the font that I had chosen. Was it Aileron Reg? Aileron Heavy. Okay, fine. Another thing that we frequently see that is not a very good idea is getting things sort of too close, okay? Having things butt up against each other. Now, no one, well, okay, I shouldn't say no one, but very few people would actually do this and make things this close. But you want to have, I would say a good rule of thumb is if you see a space within a font, you want to have something similar to that space. It creates balance. It makes it so that the eye can go through the image easily. Now, another problem with this is that I've chosen different fonts for every single piece of text, okay? People do this all the time. I think they think it's fun. I think they want to try out the options. They want to see what it looks like. It's just a bad idea because even if you don't know at the forefront of your brain that something is weird, somewhere in your brain is saying, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. I can't put my finger on it, but something is wrong. All right, so it would be better to choose similar fonts, or the same font rather, at least for elements that are graphic. So that was Aileron Heavy. I'm going to make this all Aileron Heavy, okay? Now, down here, I've typed in very small text. Here is a bunch of text that someone might include to advertise a meeting or website or so on, but it is definitely too small and is in the wrong font. Sans serif fonts are not ideal for reading a large block of text. Here's a case where a serif font would probably come in a lot handier. When you have a paragraph, something that people need to read through. Right now it's in a sans serif font. I also put it in all caps, which I think is a bad idea if you want reading comprehension. to be key. But let's just choose a serif font. Again, all caps is not ideal. I don't know if there's a shortcut in Canva for, no, that's
Only if you all kept it in Canva.
okay. Anyhow, it's in a serif font now, and serif fonts, as I type here, help the eye of the reader make its way through the text and are better for comprehension. If you've ever studied how people actually read things, people tend not to read word to word to word. Instead, they read chunks of text at a time. And so serif fonts help your brain identify chunks and go back to chunks that you had read previously for greater comprehension, if you want to get into the neurology of it. This text is too small. People are looking on screens, people are looking, on monitors. There's different levels of text that people are reading all the time, okay? So here, the text is a bit larger. Now, what have I done here? I've committed a sin. I've put these things too close together. Okay. Now, from a more advanced perspective, this background is just too darn busy. It's just not working. There's a lot of white things in the background, by which I mean clothing, not people. There's a lot of competing text in this image. And so if I were going to make a recommendation for an image for this, I would recommend finding an image that is just him with a black background. And you can find a lot of pictures like this. Frequently, news photographers who are bored are trying to be more artistic, and they'll do an extreme close-up. They'll do something called bokeh, which is to defocus the background of something and have the focal point be much more crisp. So I would recommend finding something like that. Absent that, another thing you might try, I'm going to delete that image, which was nice and big, would be to desaturate the image, to remove the color so that it doesn't compete with your text. Okay, now that text must have, how do I? All right. But if you desaturate an image, it no longer competes as much. Your brain isn't trying to distinguish between colors anymore. A black and white image kind of acts as a background in a much easier way for your eye to flow over. This is going to take more work. This is going to take more than 2 minutes of fixes. I really think the person who's making this hypothetical image should find an image which just has him. They should go through and retype this text here and make it regular instead of all caps, because it'll be easier to read. I would also suggest that they just cut as much text as they can. The more text there is on something, the harder it is to get the takeaway message, okay?
And one thing to keep in mind is that often people will
make an image for social media, and they're going to put all that text in the tweet or in the Facebook post too, and they put it all in the image. You don't need it both places. The image is what you're using to draw someone's eye and
make them look at the post, the social
media post, or whatever it is that you're
making an image for. You don't need all of the words
on the image itself.
This is slightly better. It's there's a lot of negative space down here in the image. And again, if I'm going to choose to make things colorful, now the colors really pop because this is a black and white background. And the contrast between red for racist and blue for, well, no matter who, is much starker. I don't know, has this been helpful? I hope it's been helpful.
Mute yourself for a sec.
Yes, maybe. I don't know. It's not showing up now.
All right, so hopefully that gives you just sort of an intro of some things that are important to think about, how to use Canva. You can't go wrong in Canva. It's really pretty user-friendly. So I think it's a great idea to just pick something you want to make, just start playing around in it. A lot of the things I know how to do in Canva, I never took a class or anything on it. I just started playing with it and just started trying and learned some things along the way. So I definitely recommend doing that, just sort of playing around with different sizes, different fonts. Matthew can tell you, he and I are both font snobs. We care a lot about which font we're using. I have certainly made graphics, even silly little graphics that I don't really need for anything professional, but I have spent a lot of time figuring out what font to use and chosen 20 different fonts before I picked the right one. Most things, especially on social media, you don't need to spend that much time on. Just, spending a little more time thinking about, does this work? Does this not work? Can be really helpful. Another thing you may notice, the theme of a lot of what Matthew was saying and I was saying in this image that we ended up with is less is often more. Like I said with the words, you don't need to get all of the words onto the graphic. You don't need to have busy graphics everywhere. The less you can put, the more it will highlight the things that are actually there. So are there questions? Are there things you would like us to play around with on screen and show you how to do? Any particular things? Let me see, I'm going to stop viewing Matthew's screen for a while, if I can do that. There we go. And go back to my screen. Hold on 1 second. I've not mastered webinars. Clearly that's not the thing that I am giving you a tutorial on. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go back into Zoom and share my screen. So one more thing that you can do. So we showed you positioning, showed you various things about moving things around. One more thing that you can do is make things a little more transparent. So let's say, for instance, I have some text on here already. Okay, I'm going to add some text that says Illinois Capitol Building. That's kind of hard to read, obviously. So maybe I decide I want the picture to be a little less vibrant. So there's this thing that looks like a checkerboard, says transparency, and click on that. And I'm just going to drag the bar down, and you're going to see it's going to make the picture fainter and fainter. So sometimes if the words are really important and you want to make sure that you can see them, and the picture is a little bit less important, you can keep the picture there, but make it a little more transparent so that the words are a little more obvious. There's other tricks you can do. Hold on, let me make sure I don't lose the chat here. Okay, so another thing you can do, let's say I didn't want to change the transparency of the image itself. Click on the image here, put that back up to 100. What I could do, there's also shapes in here. So I'm going to pick, this is over in Elements. I'm going to pick a shape. I'm going to pick just a square. And I'm going to remake it into a rectangle. I'm going to change it to black. And now, first I'm going to moved it too far back. Okay. So I'm going to make just this rectangle now a little more transparent. I'm going to make this font now white. So now I haven't changed everything. I've just added sort of a dark rectangle where those words go, but you can still see through it. So there's various ways you can play around with doing that. If there are words that you want to be able to see, then you might play around with this and go, you know what, actually that would look a lot better if I moved that part down to the bottom and I make sure it's still centered. And now we can read it, we can still see through with that black box, but it's easier to read than if that black box wasn't there. So like I said, a lot of this stuff is just things that you play around with and figure out what you need. So that, I think, is most of what we had for sort of plan to walk you through. If people want to run now, that's fine. I will send some notes out and the YouTube video of this presentation. But if you want to stick around, if anybody has questions or wants us to try out specific things, just let me know. And thanks, you've been a great audience. If I were to save this current image to post, would the left and right borders be part of the image? Yeah. So this image that I currently have sitting here is centered on here. It's just square. I could have made, it's almost centered. I could have made the image itself a little bit bigger so it would take up more room. If I wanted to, I could make it the whole size. But if I do that, then obviously we're going to miss some of the top and bottom. The other thing I could do is leave it like this and add a background. So that's probably a terrible background, something a little more neutral. This has these weird white triangles. Okay. So, there are various things you can do. If the background of something was completely neutral, so let me see if I have a good example somewhere in my projects that I can show you. Okay, so this background here is completely neutral. Actually, you'll see all the things that I've been working on. Oh, here's actually an example of me doing exactly that. So I had this square here, this paid leave for all. This was the logo for something. And I wanted the background to be exactly the same color. So what I did was I took another copy of that same logo, added it on, and I made it so that you could only see the blue part. And then I made that bigger. That's not a perfect example, but you can do things like that. Or you could take a screenshot of the color that you wanted. So I'm on a Mac, so it's pretty easy to do a screenshot. So I'll do like a screenshot of just the color part that I want and upload that and then make that the background so that's the exact same color. So there are various things you can play around with. That's a little more advanced, but it's an option too, especially if you're using something with a neutral background. So somebody asked if you're posting to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, what size would you use? So Facebook is very forgiving on most things. So it's going to want particular sizes if you're doing like a header for something or it's an event or something, it's going to want particular sizes. But if you're just posting on Facebook, it will let you do essentially any dimensions that you want. So I don't worry too much about Facebook. I wouldn't make 3 different sizes. What I would do is I would make Twitter sized image and I would make an Instagram sized image. And then I would probably just use the Twitter one on Facebook, depending on what I was doing, unless I had my Instagram set to share directly to Facebook, and then I would do that. But yeah, that's a great question. I probably wouldn't bother to make all 3 versions. If you get Canva Pro, you can use, there's this little resize thing here, and it will resize it to different dimensions. You're still going to have to do a lot of work to get something from Twitter sized, which is basically 2 by 1, to Instagram sized, which is 1 by 1. You're going to have to make a fair amount of changes to your image to do that. So I find it easier to just make it a second time, but that is a good idea to keep in mind. Instagram will let you post things that are different sizes, so will Twitter, but they'll chop them off weird in certain views, so it's better to go with the native resolution that they're looking for. Another important point about Twitter images is that don't put anything too far to either side that's really important, like words that you absolutely have to have people read or something, because sometimes in some views, the very far right and left of the Twitter image get cut off. So you can have things there. You can have it the whole 2 by 1 size, but just don't have anything super important on the edges. All right, other questions? Okay, well, if you come up with other questions, like I said, I'll send this video around with some notes, probably in a couple days, maybe around the weekend. And in the meantime, if you have questions, you can always reach me. My email address is kelly@demcastusa.com. And if you have questions for Matthew, you can send them to me as well, because I'm literally sitting next to him on a couch right now, so I can easily get questions to him. So let me see, So I'll put that in the chat where you can all see my email address, kelly@demcastusa.com. All right, great. Well, thanks everyone. Hope that you're doing all right in social isolation, quarantine, and stay tuned for more Demcast training sessions. There is one tomorrow night on crafting good tweets, and there's one on Saturday during the day on social media analytics. So we hope that you're learning a lot. And if you have particular ideas for trainings that you would like to see, feel free to email those to me as well. Thanks.